It's all meeting to order. It's 4:02 p.m., I believe. It's let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, roll call.
Director Quady.
Here.
Director McMillan. Here. Director Pacala.
Here.
Director Robert is absent. Director Avila is absent.
Public comments.
You need to read.
There's anybody?
There is.
Oh, okay.
We got members of the public. We do have members of the public online. We don't have any in the room.
Okay, thank you. This portion of the agenda may be utilized by any member of the public to address the board of directors on any matters within the jurisdiction of the board that does not appear on the agenda, and on matters that are on the agenda but are not designated as action items. Depending on the subject matter, the board of directors may be unable to respond to this at this time, or until the specific topic is placed on the agenda at a future Calleguas Municipal Water District Board meeting. In consideration of the Brown Act, please limit remarks to 3 minutes.
If any members of the public online wish to comment at this time, please use the raise hand feature. There are no raised hands.
Okay, very good. Moving on to the next item. Items to be added to the agenda.
No items to be added.
Thank you. Review of the agenda.
Yes, this is a new feature per the request of Director Pacala. And this is for a moment for us to pause and discuss if there's anything that needs to be taken out of order or pulled. At this point, staff is not aware of the need to pull or rearrange any items.
Yes, other directors, do you have any other items you want to review? You want to make changes in the agenda or consider changes? Changing the agendas.
Yeah, as long as we can discuss some items on the consent calendar, as we can step through, we're fine.
Okay, all right. So presentations?
None this evening.
Good. So item 6, consent calendar. Do you have any comments about the consent calendar, Jackie or Scott? I have few comments.
Good, go ahead. Do you want to go ahead?
Oh, okay, thank you. I don't have any comments on the agenda, the way it's written or modified. I do have some comments on the payment register, item 6B. There may not be an answer, but I just want to bring it up. It is on page 19. I'm looking at County of Ventura Election Division charges. I was really surprised to see how expensive it is to conduct our elections. So Division 1, Division 2, Division 3. I'm sure county has a process where they approved by the Board of Directors, Board of Supervisors. I'm just was not aware of how expensive it becomes for us. So since we have elections every 2 years, so we only budget when we have, every 2 years we budget, or do you budget every year so much?
We budget every 2 years
Every
and
two-
and we budget differently based on the number of divisions that are up, because in 2024, we had 3 divisions up, although one ended up being uncontested, which saved us some money. in 2026, we'll have 2 divisions up. So we'll budget less because if both of those divisions are contested, that's kind of the maximum is smaller.
Well, the way I read this, Division 1 has 61,000, Division 3 has 64, Division 2 has 567.
And that's because Division 2 was uncontested. No one ran against Director Quady.
He's Division 1, I'm Division 2.
No, he's Division 2, you're Division 3.
I'm Division 1?
Nope, Division 1 is Director of.
Okay, I'm Division 1. Okay.
It roughly goes from east to west. So 1 is Simi, 2 is Director Quady.
Okay.
You are 3, 4, and 5 then.
Right.
Director.
So what I,
You're 5?
I'm 5.
And I would
Okay.
have gotten that wrong. Tebow's 4.
so if there's nobody's contesting, then district saves money.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we do. But we also believe in free, fair, contested elections.
Yes.
We-
On competition.
It's not up to us.
We want
We
competition.
simply respond to the conditions that arise and the county bills us. Just, you know, our other option, we do literally, they send us a form when the election's up saying, do you want to consolidate your elections with ours? Or would you like to run your very own? And we never say we'd like to run our very own. That would obviously be much more
Yes.
expensive and labor intensive.
Okay. Another simple question, page 33. There's a satellite cell phone, I believe. There's one satellite phone. Does Calleguas have more than one or just one satellite phone? Only one?
One singular shot, yes.
Thank you.
I would highlight that we have a number of other emergency ways in which to communicate. In addition to our normal VoIP phone system and obviously the cell phones that staff all have, the control room also has access to a good old fashioned landline, as well as we're connected through Metropolitan's MARS, which is the member agency radio service. And we also have our own radio network. And one of the budget items that'll be talked about is actually to tie us in with the county's existing radio network. So
Okay.
we do have a lot of, and that's not counting all the other internet and whatnot we have.
Okay, thank you.
Point of order, are these questions coming from the budget or are they coming from the
Disbursement.
register?
Disbursement.
Okay, and I'm not seeing it on page 19.
19 was the election one, and then 33 was the satellite phone on page 33.
Yeah.
19 being the page in the PDF, not the page of the
Yes.
register.
I could page.
Okay, I'm not, all right, I'm not there. Thank you.
Okay. That's all I have comments about the payment register. Other directors have any comments?
Yeah, I just noted that the ELAP fee was split. Why? What happened there? What happens with that?
Omar, can you answer questions about the ELAP fee? Because I cannot.
No, but I'll get that back to y'all, meet with him.
Okay, I was just wondering, one was application and the other one was to finish it off as approval, I guess, but, okay.
Can you, once again, what was the question? What did you want to
It's
address?
at the top of page 26 of the packet under State Water Resources Control Board. There's 2 separate line items for the ELAP annual accreditation fee.
Week apart.
Week apart and different amounts that total slightly under 5,000.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll follow up with that information for you, Director.
Okay, not a big deal, but thank you. Yeah. Okay, I think that's all I had. It looks routine. Shit. So if on we go to the other items.
You're done, Director?
Yeah.
Okay. Item 6D, receive and affirm quarterly consultant contract reports for the district activities through March 31st, 2025. This item was discussed at our engineering and construction meeting we held at Las Virgenes / Calleguas interconnection site. I have had some questions about the consultant contracts, and the engineering staff provided their responses. I may have few more questions later on, but at this time, I'm satisfied with the answers that the staff provided me. And of course, Thibault is not here, so he also had some questions and all the questions were answered by staff. Thank you. Moving on to 6E, receive and affirm quarterly capital projects report for the district activities through March 31st, 2025. Again, this was discussed at engineering and construction. And once our engineering manager provided a 5-year detailed project report with all projects we have on the list, it was very clear. I had questions before that, but all the questions were answered when you went through that. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to standby charges. Item 6F, resolution adopting imposing water standby charges. Any comments? Any comments from the board? Okay, so I have questions. When I looked at this report, the last report was, engineer's report was done in 2022. My question is, what happens for those properties which were either subdivided or changed numbers, APN numbers? How do we capture that revenue?
Dan Smith, our manager of finance, is handling the answer to this.
Good evening, directors. So we have a consultant, Wildan, that actually analyzes all these numbers. We pull all of the information from the county with all the APN numbers. And so anything that changes, we kind of sort through that and get that out. And then we submit the roll to the county to assess the standby charge.
Yeah, maybe we could ask the consulting engineer, what happens if there were some assessors parcel number changed within these 3 years?
I can definitely ask them. I'm sure that, but my understanding of the process is that all the assessment numbers get pushed over to Wildan from us because we download it for them. And they do the analysis on it and they pick up anything that's different and then we follow up with the.
Yes, yes. I have done standby charges in the past.
Right.
In my previous role. So sometimes assessor parcel number change. Since there are 3 years, the question is, do we have to look at it? There's no need for us to look at it again.
Not us personally, but Wildan does.
That's what I meant.
They get the entire tax roll.
Okay,
And then they will analyze it and look at it against last year. And so if the numbers change,
okay,
it spits out.
all right. Thank you, then. Okay. That brings us to item 7, action item.
Well, we need to do consent calendar. We need to
Oh, yeah.
motion.
So
We can move on.
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
there's a motion second.
Okay,
Are there
Director,
any objections? Hearing none?
Aye.
Director McMillan,
Aye.
Director Pacala,
Aye.
Director Robert is absent and Director Avila is absent.
Okay, thank you, Christine. Now we can move to item 7, action items.
Yes, so our only action item for tonight is at the request of Director Quady to consider a nomination, a resolution nominating him as a member of the Aqua Region 8 Board where he currently serves. I think you are all well familiar with Director Quady's qualifications as well as his experience in this role. With that, I don't know, Director Quady, if there's anything you want to add.
No, just as I find it's great to get Calleguas out and about and in Region 8 specifically is a good thing. So glad to have been of service in the past and hope to go forward here.
Well, as Christine said, Director Quady has very good qualifications and he'll be good to represent Calleguas.
You need a motion to move the resolution?
Yeah, we would need to, a motion,
I was so,
we need to take public comment or open it up to the opportunity for public comment. And then I think a motion and a second will be in order, correct?
thank you.
All right. So if
Yeah,
any members of the public wish to comment at this time on this item, please raise their hands. We have a member of the public named Director Robert who has raised his hand. I guess he can speak as a member of the public.
He can speak as a member of the public, but that's it.
That's it. Oh, wait, he vanished. Nope, he's back. Okay, so you can unmute him and he can make public comment as a member of the public.
Hi there,
Robert, you're
can you-
unmuted.
Okay, thank you.
Member of the public, Robert.
Yep, as a member of the public, I have observed Director Quady's performance and fully support his efforts. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public wish to speak at this time on this item? Please use the raise hand feature. I see no raised hands, so.
Okay,
I would like to move the resolution appointing him to the Aqua 8 Region 8 Board.
is a motion? Oh, I second.
Okay?
So,
Director Quady,
Yes, please.
Director May.
A hearty aye.
Paula.
aye.
And Director Robert is absent and Director Avila is absent.
Okay. We got to the next item, 8, reports. Report items are placed on the agenda to provide information to the board and public, and no board action is sought. Item A, general manager's report,
Yeah, so the month.
or 1 monthly status report.
So the way we have been handling this is we will have a brief update on 5 highlights that staff have identified. And then after that, usually the president asks for the numbers of items that other board members have questions on. So
Okay.
we're gonna kick this off. And if you can go to the next slide. Our first item is item 52, which our manager of engineering, Fernando Baez, and our manager of O&M, Omar Castro, are going to speak to briefly.
Good evening, Board of Directors. So as our General Manager mentioned, this will be a dual effort by Manager of Operations Maintenance and myself. And I'll hand it off to Omar to give a quick overview of the inspection effort that was performed.
Good afternoon, board members. I really want to give a lot of kudos to the O&M staff on the preparation that happened months before we even started dewatering this pipeline. That's coordination internally with engineering, coordination with our safety and risk manager, coordination with our outside contractor, Xylem, and all of our staff, as well as the permitting for discharging water for this pipeline. So as we presented before, it took us 2.5 days to dewater this pipeline. And that included having to go back and look at the low-lying areas, getting rid of as much water as we can to expedite this process and not hang up the contractor that was going in there. It was 2.4 million gallons of water that was discharged. And we entered the location by opening up 24 vaults and manways. Because of their efforts, Xylem was able to complete the 1.8 miles of inspection, and we'll do that in 1 day period. It took about 8 hours to complete that. And it took us about another 24 hours to recharge that line, another 24 hours to complete the disinfection process. So great effort from our staff, and we're currently preparing another project so we can do another area of inspection, which is in the South Conduit, which is the 51-inch pipeline. A little bit longer than this one. It's about 2.5 miles. But once again, we'll be utilizing the same staff, the checklist that they created to make this a seamless project.
Excellent. So once all that effort was completed, the dewatering, the inspection, the recharging of the pipeline, our consultant Xylem collected that information, went back to the office and analyzed the data. And happy to report that 0 wire breaks were found in this section of the North Branch. So great news. The pipe is without any current wire breaks. Any questions?
Did you have to get an NPDES permit for the discharge of 2.4 million gallons?
Well, yeah, something changed since you were last dealing with this. There's a general statewide permit for discharges from drinking water systems now.
Okay.
So we do have to notify that we're doing the work and it's covered, but you don't have to get an individual permit for any of it. It covers a lot of things, pumping to waste, line breaks, hydrostatic testing, as well as dewatering pipelines or reservoirs for work.
Yeah, I guess the process is less, but we still have to do the testing and submit the reports, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah, we still do the monitoring and disinfecting and collecting of samples.
great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item, our Deputy GM Ian's gonna take care of.
Good evening, board. So as part of the strategic plan objectives of leadership development and pursuing an organizational culture of excellence, we instituted some district-wide leadership development with the DISC training. DISC is a personality profile, kind of similar to StrengthsFinder or Myers-Briggs, but really focused on the workplace. And we had, so everyone in the organization did that assessment, and then we had some 4-hour workshops. We had 4 of them. Not everyone took 4-hour workshops. There were 4 that each person took one of them. We kept teams together. So we had 2 for the operations and 2 for the admin. But divisions on the O&M team were kept together for the most part, except for 1 or 2 that couldn't make it. But it's really, the focus is on better understanding yourself and how your personality expresses itself in the workplace and some of the challenges and opportunities that provides, and ways of interacting with folks who are similar or different personalities. And this training, and the trainer in particular, Clint Kamek from the Leadership Development Network, who came in to do it, is the same person who does the Aqua JPIA Leadership Essentials for the Water Industry, which a number of managers have gone through or are going through today. DISC is also going to form the basis for the board retreat that's going to happen in September. So you can look forward to that. We got really good feedback out of the workshops. One of the first things that happened, so these are, press the wrong button, it'll show up on there. Anyway, you see on the bottom right, Jay's nameplate outside his window. Jay was the first one to cut out his DISC profile and stick it on his name tag, so anyone walking by or walking into his office would know what they were walking into. That trend has kind of gone viral. We've got a lot of people that started putting them up. And it's an interesting way. You can hear people around the office talking about so-and-so's an I, so-and-so's a D. And it's like, some of the feedback that we got was that the whole process makes a lot of sense, that it really explained a lot. And some people were surprised to find out where they were, but also once they found out where they were, it made a lot of sense, and that it could be eye-opening. And my personal favorite, I had lunch with all 4 of the groups, and one of the ones I sat down and someone said, I'm going to go back to my desk and rewrite that email. Based on what he just personality profile, the person he's going to send that email to, he thought, maybe this is why this information has not been received so well. So it was really great. We're going to continue doing similar training over time going forward. And as I mentioned again, this is going to be the basis for the board retreat in September.
Great. Thank you, Ian. So I guess Sue Taylor, our accounting supervisor, is handling the finance item. Finance doesn't always get to have highlights, but they have a great one this month.
Yes, finance. It's hard to follow disc screening and dewatering, but I went to a conference with Dan to A New World, which is our software that we use. And at that conference, we're given an opportunity or actually during the year, we're given the opportunity to make suggestions to our software company, telling them things that would make our lives easier. And last year, as I was preparing for our audit, one of the reports I've been able to convert to Excel would no longer convert. It's a 59-page report, and I had to basically hand fill it out and recreate it in Excel for our auditors. And by the time I was done with that, hours later, I sat down and I wrote my idea and sent it in. Never heard a word. This year we go to the conference and go to that particular session, and there's my idea. So there's 20 ideas that they pick out of the whole year with other people saying, yeah, I want that. And then we all present, then there's a vote, and we were selected in the top two. So that is my my little win for the the month anyway.
So they're gonna do our suggestion and save Sue all of that time recreating the reports and frustration. We appreciate that.
Encourages us to do more.
Yeah, now I'm like, oh, what other ideas do I have?
Now, it's great when they listen.
Yeah.
Top two, I mean, that's, you have it in the write-up, 1-5, so.
Yeah, we didn't want to talk, but we were in the top two.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. It was just kind of a thrill. And I sat down and went, wait, that's mine.
So it's a great idea. That's why it's on the top.
If there's no questions, I'll pass it on to the next one.
So you took my question.
And Wes Richardson, our manager of IT, is going to talk a little bit. And this ties in with some of the discussions we had at the Operations and Organization Committee about GIS and our future.
Yes, good afternoon, Gordon. Had a chance to go down to Esri headquarters in Redlands and attend their Southern California Water Forum. This is an opportunity for collaboration and innovation and with all of the water agencies in the Southern California area. So they give you a great time to be able to meet with other organizations and learn about things that they're going through, some of the trials and tribulations of moving from one Esri product to the other. And then they had a forum which provided a bunch of different presentations for real world applications that you can do with the Esri software. So out of the ones that I put on the slide here, I wanted to highlight two of them. And the first one was the disaster proofing your system. So one of the agencies, West Valley Water District, had provided a presentation on how they're using the Esri software to create not paper maps, but PDFs of all of their maps and have those uploaded to a SharePoint page. So in the event that if their servers were down and those were no longer available, that the PDFs of the drawings would still be available for field staff in the field. And how they're also working on putting together a disaster recovery system to make sure their servers stay up as much as they possibly can. Some of that is obviously work that we've already done with ours, but it is definitely a good thing to hear and something to know for the future for our Esri software and work to do. And then the last one I wanted to share was the storyboards and 3D modeling. San Bernardino Valley Municipal Water District had a great presentation with Esri products. You can create storyboards, which is like a website that you can go to. And as you scroll down through the story, it brings in data from the GIS system and produces it into dashboards to show you information or maps. And in this case, they're working on a 3D modeling aspect, which is really cool as far as getting to know for your customers to understand how the water system works. In their aspect, they have a lake for storage. They divert water from the lake into a groundwater basin. And then they pump out of the groundwater basin to provide water for the host for their people in their agency. And their 3D modeling set up so that it was almost like a drone flying over the lake, but it really wasn't. It was all imagery. It showed the depths of the lake in it, and then it showed the water flowing downhill to their settling basins, and actually went into like a 3D model of an aquifer so that people could understand how that is and where the water is underneath the ground and how deep it is underneath the ground. And then where they're at right now and stopping was right where they zoomed in on a well pump to pump that water out. But their future hope for that presentation is they're going to do the modeling through their distribution system to a person's tap in their house so that they have a better understanding. So it's just one more way to showcase what we can do with the Esri products that we have and how we can utilize that for customer outreach as well.
Thanks, Wes. If you want to advance the slide, I'm going to talk from here. The next one's me. So this last one, I cheated a little bit. It doesn't have an item number by it because I forgot to include it in the monthly status report until we started talking about highlights. So I decided this was a good opportunity to share. And this was a really great experience for me. I was invited to be the keynote speaker by the local section of the Society of Women Engineers. They do an event every year where they recognize young women who excel in STEM. They're identified by their high school teachers and counselors, and then they and their parents are invited to this ceremony, which they now hold at Ventura College. So they had the opportunity, there was great food, of course, and then they also were able to tour the advanced manufacturing lab at the college and engage in some hands-on activities. And then there was a presentation with me as the keynote talking about my career background, how I got to where I am today, as well as the amazing opportunities to have a career in water. They also had a panel of engineering students, so people closer to their age, talking about their own paths, whether that went through a community college to a four-year or directly to a four-year. Ventura College actually has an engineering program that prepares students to transfer to a four-year institution and complete a bachelor's degree in engineering. And I also had a lot of great conversations after my talk with parents and students who had questions. And I did have one young woman to come up to me and say that she had been interested in environmental science, and now that she understood how that interfaced with water, that she wanted to work in water too. So it was very, very rewarding. Really one of my favorite things to do, and something I don't get a chance to do very often. So I wanted to share that with the board. So those are the highlights from staff. And so turn it back over.
Regarding you going to Ventura College for the award, what I want to share is when I was going to college, there was only one woman in my engineering college. And you are a good role model for the youngsters to look at you and go into engineering. Smart people like you will help us a great deal in different areas of engineering. We need more engineers.
We do. We need more engineers of all kinds. Thank you. So now we typically do the questions by number that that the various board members may have.
Directors, do you have any questions? I have a few questions.
I do. Two of them now are knocked out. Number 33 and 45, kind of the same comment or question, I guess, is that these are kind of self-generation energy. And so I was just curious as to what kind of interest or value we're having with the Terra Verde concept of having things generated more for on-site use than actually export, because the value is so much better. That's something that we can use on-site as opposed to exporting that to another agency or a power company.
That's a good question, Director Quady. I have to look into what those different benefits are. What we have pursued is specifically for solar is implementing a project at the well field. Right now, what Terra Verde is doing for us is they're applying for the SCHIP program to see if we can qualify for batteries. And the battery storage would help offset some of the internal use. But what is the difference between self-generation for internal versus exporting? I'd have to get back.
I can answer it.
Oh.
So the solar, if we build solar at the well field, it would be under the net energy metering program. So basically the meter would run backwards. But as you know, as a member of the Aqua Energy Committee and someone who attends those meetings, you don't get full credit. You only get partial credit. So you run the meter backwards, but you don't get, it's not a one-for-one trade. But generally speaking, that's more advantageous than exporting and selling the power. There's a couple of different programs under which you can do that. And we have our existing hydros are under 3 different programs, actually. Do not ask me to define the acronyms, but there's one that's called CREST that 2 of our hydros are under, one that's called REMAT that 2 of our hydros are under, including Conejo, and then the other one's under everyone's favorite acronym, RESBCT. It is literally, people literally call it the Aretha Franklin tariff. I'm not making that up. The first 2, you get paid for export. We do try to utilize here and offset a purchase, because once again, you get more value than selling it. RESBCT, you actually get to credit against accounts at other locations. So that's for Granson Hydro. We have that set up so that you can have actually up to 99 benefiting accounts. We only have 3, because we basically have here, the Wellfield and Fairview Pump Station. So we do look and we utilize a consultant named Lon House from Water and Energy Consulting to help make sure that we're optimizing the programs that we're utilizing. But it is always more beneficial to avoid a purchase from Edison than to sell power to Edison, because they do not buy it at the same price they sell it. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
And maybe questions you didn't even ask.
That's right.
It's a topic I can expound upon. Sorry.
And then number 50, I was just curious as to whether or not we have insurance on that dam. Is there such thing as,
Insurance on the.
Insurance question seems like more of a Tricia question. 50, it's about the dam here. Whether the dam is covered by insurance.
through all this work with, dam safety people and, you know, so there's a structure of what all is expected of the facility or the structure. And, so I'm just wondering if there's any kind of design reference or if there's any kind of, second guessing that, insurance companies do as well.
I think that's probably a question we'd have to get back to you on. I will say that the work we did recently was not mandated by our insurance or by regulatory authorities. It was something we wanted to do to be extra sure that everything here would perform at the highest standards.
Yeah, and you had nothing to respond to.
Nope. And it turned out fantastic, but we can get back to you on the insurance question.
Okay, and then the last one was, it's actually the group of the number 79, 74, number 80. I just think it's a valuable topic to bring up and talk about now, heat illness prevention. So,
Absolutely. And
comment.
yeah, I believe training for heat illness prevention is an annual requirement. And there are some additional things we do as well when the weather is expected to heat up, and there are certain numeric metrics that I won't try to remember. But basically, if there's a big heat up, our health and safety specialist notifies all the folks with field staff to give them a heads up, so that everybody knows we're going from a cooler, like we've had those heat spells. When there's a big jump up, we notify so that everybody knows to make sure to have adequate water or electrolyte drinks, opportunities for cooling and shade. And O&M does tailor their planned activities based on weather. If it's going to be super hot, it's a lot more likely we got staff out on the Oxnard Plain working on the salinity management pipeline instead of out at the well field.
Very good. Stay safe out there.
Thank you.
That's it.
Questions, Dr. McMillan? So I have a few questions on page number 13. I go by the page numbers on this agenda. Alta Mutual Water Company. I see our general manager and deputy general manager are thinking out of the box. It's a good thing. My question is, does Alta Mutual have Santa Paula water master allocations and GM allocations?
Yes,
They're both, okay.
yes. You got about 1,500 in Oxnard Pleasant Valley, and I don't remember in Santa Paula.
But they have some allocations. Okay. Thank you. This is item 24, I believe. Ocean Well. Is it item 24?
Yes, that's us.
Item 24, okay.
Yes, it is.
So I see again, Calleguas staff is actively involved with Las Virgenes on this Ocean Well project. My question is, when is the Ocean Well company planning to do ocean water testing?
So the latest update that I saw was 2027. They're hopeful that they're going to be able to do it in Hawaii, but if they can't get the permitting, they have a backup plan to do it in Mexico. That's 2027 or 2028.
Okay.
They're going to do that. Their first is off the back of a boat. So they'll hang it off the back of a boat. And then whether they're going to do, or when they would do deep water testing, I think that's part of why they want to do it in Hawaii, because it gets deep so fast that they would be able to put it at the 400-meter mark, not very far from land.
Okay.
Compared with where they'll have to be off Malibu.
Okay.
I don't know when that's planned for.
Thank you. Item number 24. Item number 64, ASR Wellfield. I guess this question is for operations. How often do we exercise ASR wells? How often do we exercise all of the ASR wells?
So ASR wells are rotated monthly to do the water quality sampling or just to do any motor test analysis that we have to do. So it depends on the sampling. So every quarter, we're going through and exercising the wells to discharge.
So on an annual basis, you cover all of the 27, however number of wells we have.
18.
18 wells.
But yes, well,
At least once annually, they are exercised and pumped.
they're exercise pump and also on the injection side of it as well.
Okay. Thank you. Well, that's all I had on item 8A1.
Director McMillan, should you?
Okay, then that completes this item and we get to move on to the big one.
Big one, budget. Item 8A2, finance manager.
This is going to be a group effort, but Dan's going to kick us off.
Good evening, Director. So I am starting us off tonight to talk about the proposed 2025-26 budget, and we're going to talk about the long-range finance plan. Since this is a proposed budget, this is our first chance to present this to you and the first chance for you to ask any questions you may have. We're going to go over this in a little bit of detail, including getting all the managers up here. So we're going to be talking quite a while about this. There are several things we're going to discuss. We're going to talk about the water rates. I'm going to start off with just another rehash of what's going on with the water rates, just so that's such a big part of the budget and is included in here that it's important to keep covering it. We're going to go over the water revenue sales assumptions. We're going to talk about the revenues and then other expenses. And then we'll talk about department budgets. Talk a little bit about the capital improvement plan and what's in there right now. Long-range finance plan, and then the next steps. So I'm going to start this off by talking about the water rates again. So we have one tiered rate right now because Metropolitan dropped off their tier 2. So we dropped ours off as well. Our tier 1 rate has 3 components. We have the Metropolitan component, and then we have a Calleguas operating rate component, and then our capital construction surcharge, which is for the CIP projects construction. Our water rates also have 2 fixed charges, including the capacity charge, which is part coming from Calleguas and part coming from Metropolitan, as well as the readiness surcharge, which is all Metropolitan, and we just passed that through. So going through the capacity charge, the Metropolitan side is based on a peak day, so one day in between May 1st and September 30th, but it's over a 3-year time period, so it's always a rotating 3 years. So right now it's 2022 through 2024. And our numbers did just change recently because of the drought. So when we were going in the drought, we were not pulling as much water, obviously, with those low water sales. And so we were having a lower CFS, but it took until this year for us to actually get a lower allocation on the capacity charge because our previous high was in 2021. So it took 3 years for us to go through that. The district does monitor our CFS up in the control room. We try as much as possible to do as little to minimize the capacity charge by monitoring our CFS that's coming in from Metropolitan, but it really is based on how much the purveyors are pulling at certain times during the year, especially in this May 1st through September 30th where we're getting analyzed. And what the Metropolitan capacity charge does is to recover the cost of the assets that Metropolitan has that are providing the peak capacity within their system. So they figure out all the assets that they say are providing the peak capacity and then allocate it to all of their purveyors. Calleguas takes that. We also have our own capacity charge, and ours is based a little different. We do ours based on a peak week, same time period, May 1st through September 30th. But we only look back 1 year. So every year it changes based on what the purveyor did in the previous year. Our capacity charge recovers the costs of the assets that provide supply and distribution during an outage. So some of those assets for us include the Lake Bard water filtration plant, Branson pump station, and the well field. Those are items that we actually put into operation when we have an outage from Metropolitan. And we did use it during the drought emergency that we also had. With this, we also do recover on the capacity charge, Metropolitan's charge. So we kind of combine ours and Metropolitan's and then allocate it out to all of our purveyors. The readiness to serve charge is all just really a Metropolitan thing. They are recovering the capital costs of the portion of the system capacity that is there to provide standby and emergency service and operational flexibility. So they say. Didn't work out too good during the drought for us, but we are arguing with them about that. They actually allocate all of that to their purveyors based on a calendar 10-year rolling average. And it works out that we have about 6%, a little over 6% of that from all the other purveyors based on water sales. So Calleguas takes that RTS that we're allocated for Metropolitan and we just allocate it right out to our purveyors. And we use the same methodology. We do a calendar 10-year rolling average. So it's pretty straightforward going from us to them. To kind of go over what the Metropolitan water rates are. Just to remind you, Metropolitan has a biennial rate adoption, which means they dropped rates for 2 years at a time. Last time they did them was in 2024, and they adopted both the 2025 rates and the 26 rates. So we already knew going into this year what the Metropolitan rates were going to be. Just to kind of rehash 2025 rate adjustments, which we're going through right now, was an overall 9.6% increase, which included an 11.1 increase on their tier 1 rate, which brought their rate up to the $1,395 per acre foot. We're still seeing large increases on both their capacity charge and RTS charge in 2025. And you're going to see that it's actually pretty good increases in 26 as well, 11.5% and 7% increases on those two. But also with that, we're looking at another 9.5% increase on their tier 1 rate. So the rates that are coming from Metropolitan were adopted, they were high. We knew this one was here, so we've had time to get it out to the purveyors. We were able to get that to them in the previous rate adjustment. We sort of knew this was coming, so we warned the purveyors at that time. And here's just a snapshot of what it looks like for the 2026 rates. You can see the 9.5% increase for Metropolitan. Overall, Calleguas is looking at a 6% increase on their rates, which includes a 6.1% for the operating side and a 5.9% for the construction side, which averages out to a 6% increase. But overall, we're looking at for the tier 1 rates an 8.6% increase, and it's going to bring our tier 1 rate to $2,058 an acre foot. And we're going to be not discussing this at the next board meeting, but we're definitely going to be bringing it back to the board for adoption at that time. So with that, we're going to actually start the proposed budget. If you have it in the document up, we're going to sort of roll right through those pages as it's presented in the document. The first few with revenues, expenses, a little bit combined, but mostly we're going to roll through and when we get to the departments, it'll just go right through the document. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt us so that you can ask your questions at time, especially when we go through the department budgets, because the department manager's led up is going to be the person that knows best about their budgets. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Kristen so she can present the actual proposed budget.
Thank you, Dan. Good evening, directors. I'm Kristen Morgan, and I'm the Senior Accounting Technician. I helped create the proposed 25-26 budget, and I'm happy to present it to you now. So let's get started. First, we have water sales. We are predicting 75,000 acre feet for 25-26, and this represents a 2.7% increase from the 2025 budgeted sales. And just to give you an idea of how we came up with that number, we took a look at the prior year water sales, and you can see those here, what we budgeted versus what we actually sold. So in 2022, you can see that we were right on target and we nailed it. Dan made this slide and he's really proud about that. In 2023 was when we had the drought and we had the mandated water restrictions. So we came up short of our budget by about 7,000 acre feet that year. And then the water restrictions were lifted. So we thought that we would see some increase in sales. So we budgeted 73,000 acre feet in 2024. And we did see a small sales rebound, but it was a rainy year. So that there was decreased demand then. So we were a little short again by 8,000 acre feet. And now we're in 2025 and we've stuck with that 73,000 acre feet. And we are actually on pace to surpass that. We're looking like we will get 76,500 acre feet this year. And it's worth noting that we haven't had very much rain, so that could be part of why we're doing so well. And so based on the historic sales and our current water conditions, we feel confident that 75,000 acre feet is a reasonable estimate for 25-26, and that it won't leave us coming up short on revenues next year. And I'm really hoping that we're right, so that I can put, when I come back up here, I can have a line for 2026 saying that we nailed it. This is just a good visual. You can see in 2022 that to 23, that drop off for the drought, and then we're, slowly getting back on track. And there's that 75,000 acre feet that we're budgeting for next year. And in terms of revenue, that those 75,000 acre feet translate to water sales revenue of $147.5 million, which is a $15.7 million increase in water revenues over 24-25. And that includes the $738,000 increase in the readiness to serve charge from Met. And that's, like Dan explained, that's just a pass through from Met. So we just pass that on to the purveyors. So you'll see that in the budget on the revenue side and the expense side. And it is worth noting that it is the fourth consecutive year that Met has increased that RTS charge by $700,000 or more. Okay, so on to our other revenues, starting with property tax. Property values continue to increase, and we have been consistently earning more property taxes than we budgeted in the past. So we are just increasing our projection to better reflect what we actually received during the year. And our power generation revenue, we're keeping the same. This comes from the power generated at the hydro stations that we sell back to SCE. And we're on track to hit our budgeted 6,000 this year. And we expect that we'll do the same amount next year, assuming a normal water year. For the SMP, we continue to kind of decrease our production estimates just due to the actual discharge amounts that we're seeing from Camarillo and Camarosa. So this little decrease is just us trying to better refine our estimates just to more accurately show what discharge we're actually seeing. And you might notice on the budget document that we are not budgeting for our BAB subsidy this year. And that's just because we refinanced those 2010 B bonds. So we won't be receiving that BAB's contribution this year. Other than that, our revenues remain largely unchanged. And this is a 5-year snapshot of our revenues. So you can just see what we're talking about, the property taxes and the interests just kind of steadily going up and a little bit more than we've been budgeting. And this is a look at our operating revenues. We talked about power generation and the SMP fees, and about pumping power, just a quick explanation of what that is. Certain purveyors are contracted to pay for the pumping charges that we incur to get the water to them. And those charges are based on our invoices from Southern California Edison. And we just, for the individual pump stations, and we pass those on to the purveyors. And so we expect those to remain stable. You can see that there. Okay, so that does it for the revenues. So onto the expenses. Overall, we are proposing an increase in operating expenses of 14.5 million, but the vast majority of that, 13.5 million of it, is just due to an increase in the cost of water. So that's all metropolitan, and we don't have any control over it. So our real actual increase is just short, or proposed increase is just short of $1 million. And most of that is due to employee salary and benefits. So that includes a 3.3% COLA, which is based on CPI. The increase that we'll be seeing in benefit costs, mostly medical and pension. And it also reflects the proposal to add 1 new position and to reclassify 3 other positions, which I think we'll touch on more when the department managers discuss their budget details. And here's a quick visual of how salaries and benefits have been steadily increasing over the past 5 years. Okay, and this slide is a 5-year comparison of our operating expenses. And I like this one because you can see the three components of our expenses. And you can see how cost of water makes up 74.3%. And like I said before, that just comes from MED, so we don't have any control over it. You can see the green section is our debt service expense, and it's actually decreasing this year. And that's because we paid off the 2014 A bonds and we refinanced the 2010 B bonds. So that resulted in lower interest due. And the operating expense, what we have control over, is actually decreasing as a percentage of the whole. So I think that's good. And that really concludes my overview of the proposed budget. So if there's any questions before I hand it off to the department managers. Okay.
Any questions from the board? I do have comments and questions. So the proposed budget is very detailed, and it includes how many? 21 different different units within our Calleguas staff, from SMP to administration to capital projects. Each one of those units also has very detailed explanation of where the costs are, higher or lower. That to me is very, very transparent. Anybody who wants to know where the cost increases are, you can go to that place and it will tell you where the cost increases. So, and what I think, I just made some notes as I was reviewing the budget. So my observations are, when I compare 25-26 budget with that previous year budget, our expenditures are increasing by 7.8%, and our revenues are increasing by 9.5%. The good news, because next year you'll have more revenue coming into. That's good news. It will increase the fund balance. And when I look at the cash investments, it has 179 million as of August 30th, and it has $183 million August 2025. I guess it's $3.7 million in 1 month. That's on that financial sheet where it goes that's where that's coming from. So this is all good news. As for the operating, as of 6/30/26, operating fund balance is projected to be $31 million, and capital reserve fund is $84 million. So in other words, Calleguas is doing very good financially, and because of all the hard work by financial staff and our finance manager budgeting the way he does. It's all good news. My question is, do we have a 5-year rate that we publish for our rate for our purveyors? 5-year rate. Do we have that? Is it in the part of the budget?
And it's part of this presentation.
Oh, I thought you're done with the presentation.
Not done. We're just getting to the.
Pausing at this point.
She said, ask for questions. I thought you're.
Answer.
She just gave us what I.
As an overview.
Yeah, it's the overview for most of the major revenues and the expenditures that aren't department related.
Yeah.
So we are gonna go through the department budgets.
Okay.
Ready.
And then I'll come back.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kristen. So it starts with me and the general manager budget, which really encompasses me, Ian, Kara, and Henry primarily. I'm going to just highlight a couple of things that are new and different. That's also what the individual department managers are going to do. As Director Pacala noted, the budget is extremely detailed, and we didn't think you wanted us to go through it in excruciating detail. And a lot of it is the same from year to year. So the focus here is to highlight what is noteworthy and different. So under the general manager's budget, that includes sponsorships, which we This year, fiscal year, fully consolidated into the general manager's budget. They had previously been scattered out a little bit. We are proposing some new sponsorships. One of those is the Public Policy Institute of California. They do a lot of good work in the water space. We have not, I believe we did sponsor them years ago and then got away from it, but they produce a lot of really valuable activities and data and op-eds related to water issues, and sponsoring them gives you some access and ability to influence the kinds of things that they consider and evaluate. Also, per the sponsorship committee's request, we're including some money to budget for supporting Chamber of Commerce events. And that could be, excuse me, any of the chambers of commerce within our service area that we're active in, which is primarily Simi, Conejo, and West Valley, which kind of covers Oxnard, Fort Wayne, that whole area. We also are planning to sponsor Southern California Water Coalition's quarterly luncheon event, which will be held at the Reagan Library here. And the committee also wanted to sponsor some additional AWA events, specifically those dealing with operators and students. Excuse me. We do every year look at the events that we have been sponsoring and determine whether that makes sense, whether we're getting value out of that sponsorship. And there are some events that we didn't feel like we got a good return on investment. They were maybe not terribly well attended, or we didn't get a lot of engagement with attendees. So those we are not planning to sponsor again. And as I mentioned, we consolidated everything here. So some of the sponsorships had still been in water resources. On the travel and training budget, we are budgeting for the board retreat that Ian spoke about earlier that we'll be having in September, as well as for the clerk of the board to potentially attend the Aqua JPA leadership program that many of us have gone through. You'll note throughout the presentation today, we highlight either folks who are currently in the program, in which case it's recognized as 24, 25, and ones that are applying. We may or may not get it. Everyone that we apply accepted to the program. We have 3 people doing this year, and that is really unusual. So we'll see, but Kara has expressed interest. And then under consultants, you note that we're continuing to budget for risk follow-up activities. That includes things like the regional desalter study that we are working on with a large working group of our varying consultants. Can someone advance the slide? Because I can't do it from here. Thank you. The other item for me to talk to, of course, is we budget for the board and the costs incurred for your activities. That includes budgeting for the 2 Aqua conferences as well as Aqua DC. I know the board members who attended Aqua DC this year really felt that that was a valuable effort, even though obviously you incur higher travel costs due to the distance, as well as the cost of the conference and the cost of the hotel, but we did budget for that, as well as, of course, your cost to attend Calleguas meetings and related meetings. So that includes when you go to AWA, Ventura County, any special districts, a chamber commerce meeting, all of that. And then, as you'll note, we do budget a little bit more for Director Quady because of the roles he plays on both the Region 8 board that the board voted to renominate him for, as well as the Aqua JPIA, his role within that. So that's it on the general manager items. Any questions on my part of the budget? All right, in that case, Charlotte will talk about external affairs and the plan for the year.
Great. Good evening, directors. External affairs is going to look fairly similar in the coming year as it is right now. I'll point out a couple exceptions to that. As Christine mentioned, there are 3 of us enrolled in the Aqua JPIA Leadership Essentials program. That carries over into the next fiscal year. We've had 2 in-person meetings so far. We'll have 2 more in the coming fiscal year that I am enrolled in, so I will continue with that program. The California Public Information Officers Conference was new this year. Our management analyst attended and found it very valuable. Legislative advocacy expenses are much the same as the current year. We provide lunch to our regional legislative group. I'm on the CSDA Legislative Committee, and I attend those meetings in person in Sacramento 3 times a year. And then, of course, we have our trips to Sacramento as needed. Something new for this year will be printing and graphic design of the year in review for 2025. As you may recall, we did that for the first time for 2024. we'll be doing it again. And there are some graphic design and printing costs associated with that. That will be in the external affairs budget. So those are things that I'd like to highlight. Happy to answer any questions. Very good.
All right, good evening again. So the finance budget's pretty simple this year. I had to actually pick a few things that I know we always do, like the trainings. These 3 trainings I always find very important. The California Municipal Financial Officers, the CSMFO. I take 2 other staff with me to go to this. I find it very, they have a lot of great sessions. It's a pretty good sized conference. And we learn a lot there. And the New World Conference, you know, now that we've got some winning some design challenge, now we're going to start putting more stuff in and see what we can do. But it's also really good to learn the system, see what's coming up, and get some good ideas of what other people and how other people use it. So I'm going to be making sure that I get to this one, and I'm going to take the my senior account tech with me so that she can start learning all the ins and outs of the New World system. And the last one is something that was new for me this year. Is I went to the California Municipal Treasurers Association. They're really big too with our investment policy. They helped us get it in the format that we have now. But they had some really good sessions. I found a lot of value in that one. And so I'm looking to go to it again. And I'm also going to try to get the senior account tech to go with me because she is our money manager and over the investments. So she prefers our investment monthly investment report that comes to the board. So some of the new things for this year, one of them is the cost of service study, which I've mentioned in previous finance committee meeting. We are looking to do that again this year. It's been since 2016 that we've done a cost of service study, so it's been quite a while since the last one. And I think it's definitely time. And so I've added that into the budget so that we can get started on it. I'm also looking to do some refinement for our debt policy and our reserve policy. Some of this is going to kind of go in with the cost of service study because it's good to know what our reserves need to be and how we're doing with that when we're going through the cost of service study so that we can develop it as part of it. So I'm looking to refine both of those as well. And some of that's going to take some outside help to do this, to come up with something that's standard within the industry and what's a good public policy.
Question about cost of service that was previously discussed. You brought that to the board before. Regarding the refined debt policy and reserve policy, $25,000.
Yes.
That's because one of the policy is 2014 that needs to be updated.
Yeah, so both of them are kind of old.
Right.
Looked at.
Right. So as a matter of fact, I just reviewed, I looked at this, then I reviewed all 3 policies first time. So I know at least what's in there. As far as there's another policy for investment policy, I believe.
Yes.
That particular policy, the title name is not correct. In other words, it doesn't say fiscal manager has authority, it says administrative manager. Maybe that title need to be changed.
Yeah, Dan's title has changed over the years. So
Right.
you found a relic.
So I will get that updated. We do that annually.
Oh, you do that
When
annually?
it's done annually, and that comes in probably in late fall.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
Great, thanks, Dan. On to Tricia and Human Resources and Risk Management.
Thank you. So we are taking care of the people that take care of the water. So for human resources, I picked a few highlights here. So I also am participating in the Aqua JPA Leadership Essentials for the water industry. And I'm grateful for the investment you guys have made in for that. So thank you. And I look forward to other people getting that as well. Another highlight in the training category is a business writing class. We are proposing a series of classes to help our staff prepare for different positions throughout the organization. So I think that's an exciting opportunity that we could offer for them to improve in areas like memo writing and things like that they may not do every day, and increase their skills. As far as electrical safety plan updates and implementation, this is something on the budget this year that wasn't on there last year because according to the NFPA guidelines, we are supposed to update that every 3 years. So we'll be spending time using a consultant to do some of those updates in our facilities. You'll see there's an insurance increase. I think at the last board meeting, this Director Quady brought some increases that came from Aqua JPIA. So we ran back to our desk, had increased the budget a little bit to cover those increases that we learned about recently. So you'll see that in there as well. And then the last most significant increase for our budget is a radio upgrade project. We are proposing to do a complete upgrade in 25-26. And what that looks like is new radios for our field staff and our emergency operations center. And why we're proposing that is because our radio system is outdated. We're using a two-way radio system, and we are having some deficiencies. We're limping along with what we have. I've heard that some of these radios are from the 90s. So some of our employees are younger than our radios. So this radio upgrade project put us on the regional radio network, which is something the County of Ventura is managing. So it's their infrastructure, something they're currently building out, even bigger than it is now. And right now, all except one police agency is using that in the county. So we know that there'll be reliability, there'll be support, we'll have the maintenance and operations that we need for that as well. So you'll see this in the budget over 3 different line items, about $250,000 for this 1 year. And that includes all of the necessary equipment, accessories, and implementation for that project. And then after that, there would just be the service fees, annual service fees. So those are the highlights, but I'm happy to answer any questions about any other line items you might see.
I'm glad you're thinking about the radios. I'm glad you're thinking about the radios.
Yeah, that was like.
I just think a lot about Las Virgenes and during their fire.
It's a huge upgrade in equipment and technology. Really, United Water is on it. Mostly comprised of police agencies using it now. And we're getting in early enough where there'll be enough space for us. So at some point, their system could fill up and people wouldn't be allowed on. So it's a great timing. And we will have an opportunity to test it as well. So we did pick up some loaner radios, so we'll be able to test it. Some areas we have dead spots. And so we don't see any challenges there, but we will get an opportunity to test as well. Exciting.
Thanks, Tricia. On to engineering and Fernando.
Good evening, Board of Directors. Excuse me. Some of the items I'd like to highlight for the engineering budget includes training, starting with the Aqua JPIA Leadership Essentials for Water Industry. We budgeted for one of the senior project managers to attend this year-long program. Several of staff have already gone through this program or on going through that in the present. So another training opportunity is the American Public Works Association Conference and the North American Society for Trenchless Conference. We find those conferences to be very resourceful, especially for projects that include trenchless construction that are coming up and in design. So it's good to get up to speed on any technologies that have been proposed or are being implemented that we should be aware of. We're also budgeting for the replacement of carpet in all the offices of the administration building. We recently replaced the carpet in the general cubicle space, and now we're moving to replace the carpet in the offices as well. And we're also planning to do the next phase of the pipeline condition assessment for welded steel pipe and bar wrap pipe. And that next section is being looked at. We plan to implement that investigation during the next fiscal year. With that, I'm happy to take any questions. Okay, thank you.
I see a move on the Paladin risk management. So that went to HR. And I was just curious because I saw 2 of those items in our ledger today. And I was just wondering what those actually are.
I'll take it if you don't mind. So our longtime insurance review and risk management consultant, Greg Johnson, fully retired. And so we needed another consultant to keep us up, make sure all of our insurance certs for all of our consultants and contractors are up to date. Tricia, HR, RM, worked to find another consultant who would do that work. That consultant is Paladin. And so we did 2 things. We shifted from Johnson, who's retired, to Paladin. And then we also shifted the responsibility for managing that contract under human resources and risk management, where frankly is where it belongs. It was something engineering had been doing. It was kind of an artifact of a different time. I had been managing that contract for them.
Part of that risk transfer stuff or is?
Yes, insurance certificate review is highly specialized because the majority of insurance companies will consistently change endorsement numbers, coverages, coverage language as things occur and give rise to risks that they don't really want to cover. And in today's world with fire risk and everything that we're seeing, it's good to have somebody on the cutting edge of the insurance industry who knows what the current certificates are and what the current language is and what the coverages are to see if the certificates that we get, for example, for a construction project, match what we require them to have. So that's what they do. It's kind of a specialized insurance consultant to make sure the district's protected and getting what they pay for.
Wonderful. Thank you.
So for water resources, in our budget, we have the Urban Water Management Plan and Water Shortage Contingency Plan 2025 update. So we talked about this at the last board meeting where your board authorized us to engage with a consultant to do this work for us. Again, this is something we do every 5 years. So that is that work will be done in the next fiscal year. I think we're going to kick off in June. And so that is there. Similar to other departments, we also have an emphasis on training within our department. And we have budgeted some funds for me to complete the Aqua JPIA Leadership Essentials for the Water Industry program. And just like Tricia said, I thank you very much for that investment in me as well. And I'm getting so much out of that program, really enjoying it. So we do have 2 more in-person meetings coming up. And so the budget for that is just the travel expenses for that. We also have Jen Vasquez, our principal water resources specialist, is in the inaugural cohort of the Educate to Lead program, which is a very, very cool program. It is a partnership between the Water Education for Latino Leaders and the California African American Water Education Foundation. It's open to folks statewide, and the curriculum centers on self-awareness, inclusive leadership, and fostering innovation. So proud of Jen for getting into that first cohort, and we are budgeting for her to complete that program. Another thing we are budgeting for, which we also did last year, this is kind of new how we're presenting this, but we have the member agency administered program that is the program that reimburses us for costs that we get approved from Metropolitan for water efficiency and conservation type programming. And so this year we had started by offering a shared services program for our retailers to be able to get a dashboard product that helps them track their performance toward their framework goals for the California or the Conservation as a California Way of Life regulations that have rolled out. We want to expand the shared services concept and again, better utilize this MAA program funding by also looking into offering our retailers a cost share on a water loss control program, which is kind of in its infancy right now, but I am working with several of our retailers to develop that out and kind of see what would work best for them. So we put that as a cost or in the budget or an expense in the water resources budget, but you'll also see that it is in the revenue side as well, because Metropolitan will reimburse us. But often what we'll do with these things is Calleguas will offer to pay the contractor directly. So it helps out the retailers and then we ourselves get reimbursed. So it shows up in our budget. And then lastly, we have been doing a very exciting project, which we hope to show you at the next board meeting. This is our Calleguas Water Career video series, and it is we did 4 so far where we, and this again is Jen Vasquez's project that she has been spearheading, and they interviewed 4 employees on basically how they came to work in the water industry, what they like most about working here. And it just came out amazing. So I can't wait for you to see that next time. And we would like to expand that out by doing 4 additional employees and representing some of the other departments that weren't represented in the first round that we have completed. So there is some budget in there for that as well. And that concludes water resources. If there's any questions?
Well, I just thought of you when they were presenting the actual versus budget on the water use and then the different factors that went along with those water use years.
Yep.
I was wondering if you were thinking, where, oh, where is water conservation hardening?
Yeah, it's an ongoing question. Thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. On to Wes and IT.
Afternoon again, board. For the information technology budget, we wanted to highlight a couple of key items in this. And the first is the new GIS analyst position, as will be recommended by the O&O committee. When we met yesterday, we discussed how important that position is for the future work for the district in our GIS system, and a necessary knowledgeable staff member to be able to help guide us in the right direction for that. Also in my budget is an increase in training cost for the next year. Some of that is to be able to attend some conferences. IT conferences are interesting to find really good ones to go to, but when you find some that are really good, you want to be able to attend them to be able to get awareness for new technological advancement. And a lot of the costs that are included in my training budget is to bring current staff up to speed on a bunch of our SCADA software. So there's a significant cost in there for SCADA software training to make sure that they all have that knowledge base. One of the things that changed this year is the telephone and signal channels. Signal channels used to be run under the O&M budget. We moved that to the IT budget this year. As many of you are aware, we had to switch a lot of our SCADA communications off of our old direct lines with AT&T to actual internet connections. With that comes all of the network side that is a part of that. And that was why we decided it was a good idea to move that to the IT department, since we're the ones that are setting all of those channels up. The equipment purchases, as part of our asset management software that we're working on moving into, CityWorks. One of the things that we had realized is the ability for staff to be able to utilize that system in the field, how we could provide that to them. It has the ability, it is web hosted. So any place you had to have the ability to access a website, they can have access to that system. Trying to outfit all of the trucks with hotspots and have staff work with laptops connected to those was going to be very complicated and clunky. And in the telephones in their hands that they all have out in the field are so small that you can't see the maps on those to work with. So that's why we decided to go with tablets. So we will be purchasing tablet devices for all of those staff, O&M staff working in the field. And part of that is why you will also see an increase in the signal channels budget, is because all of those will have cellular connection for all of those devices in the field. Moving on, the boardroom AV upgrades. We were not able to settle in on an exact process that we had wanted to in this current fiscal year. So we have moved that across and definitely are going to be getting that done in this next fiscal year for new cameras, new mics, the whole system in here to make it more user-friendly and more functional for everybody to use the room. And then the last is the increase in our GIS budget. So as we bring on this new analyst, we do recognize that there are going to be some additional charges that we're going to have. One of them will be licensing, because they'll need to have access to the Esri software to be able to work on the system. And then we have also did slight increases in the consultants for that, because we know that some of the work that he or she will be doing will possibly need the consultants' help going in on this very first fiscal year. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Yeah, any comments, board? Regarding the additional position, I know it was considered as part of our operations committee, but that won't come up until we talk about the meetings, right?
I mean, that's when the board will get an update, but if you, I think this would be an appropriate moment if you have questions about this position to ask them now, or you can wait until we get to the committee item.
Okay, I don't have questions. I was just going to say that I attended that meeting, and I believe we certainly need the GIS position that you're recommending. I couldn't talk at that meeting, so I'm.
See, Brown Act compliance.
To show up with my set.
Thank you.
Thanks, Wes. All right, now we move on to the big budget. Obviously, the operations and maintenance department is not just a very, very critical part of our what we do here. They also have the largest, most complicated part of our budget. So Omar gets more than one slide because of the scope and importance of his work on the budget.
All right, good afternoon, board members. So I'll be presenting on a few slides, not just one. I will go over some of the highlights of the O&M budget. And also, as presented yesterday in the Operations and Organization Committee meeting and recommended for board approval, we'll be going through the recommendation to reclassify 3 positions within operations. And that is the Assistant Manager of Operations and Maintenance, that will be reclassing a vacant Assistant HR Manager position. Senior Maintenance Crew Leader, that will be reclassing a System Maintenance Worker. And that will be for our coatings and painting task force. And then the Cross Connection Specialist, which we will be reclassing the System Maintenance Worker. And that's to make sure that we comply with the new regulation mandates for the cross connection and cross connection hazard program. In addition, we're going to look at some training opportunities for employee development. So as we move forward with the painting and coatings task force, we know that we're going to have some certification training for coatings inspections, but also for cathodic protection. And we do have subsurface locating mandates, which is a lot of people refer to it as the USAs, the marking on the ground. But now our employees will be going through certification on the regulations, as well as common practices for new equipment for locating and what they call positive notification. Even if you do not have anything in your area, you still have to notify them that you don't have any conflicts instead of not marking. And as we mentioned in the cross connection program, there's 2 different series within that. One is the backflow tester, and that is a 40-hour course that you have to take. And then a written test with the American Water Works Association, and then the hands-on application for testing of devices. Once you've completed that, you're required to take another course with the to qualify for the cross connection specialist. And that is a 40-hour course that's done at USC, both courses are. And then all the testing is done through the American Water Works Association. And then in our instrumentation and programming, we do have some new employees, but we have employees who are eager to learn more about ladder logic and programming of our programmable logic controllers, as well as a little bit more information on SCADA programming. And that will help us do some internal work, be a little quick response instead of waiting for our contractor who can help and come in and do some troubleshooting. And then lastly is the JPI essentials for the water industry and for me.
Well, as far as reclassification, again, I was at that meeting yesterday. I listened to the presentation. What you are doing is really to improve efficiencies, and also you're trying to comply with state requirements so you can hire somebody for backflow prevention. So you don't have to go to county has discontinued the program anyway, so that will help. County discontinued the backflow prevention, correct?
Yeah, the county's no longer supporting that program.
Right.
Effective July 1st. So we will be in compliance, and I'll go over some of that and how we're going to address that in the interim. We're waiting to approve the reclasses in the budget and how we're going to go about addressing that. I'll get to that. Lights here. So as Wes mentioned, you're going to see an increase in his budget and a decrease in my line item as we move the telephone signals into IT. We'll see if increase in fuel expense, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One, we're all aware that fuel prices have gone up, but last year we took a big hit during the PSPS events, the power outages. So this is we increase the budget, try to see if we can not have to come back and have such an impact, right? So last year we came back to the board for an additional $400,000, but we don't anticipate any big events where we're going to be without power for 2 weeks running on generators. But we did have an increase in that area. And then our security services, that is actually for contracted services. Those prices have gone up, as well as our vehicle and equipment maintenance through outside services. The consulting decrease, and that's contributed to engineering budgeting for the pipeline condition assessment. And we will be budgeting for the PCC inspection, which is $150,000. And we're going to do one section this year instead of trying to do 2 locations. One of the reasons for that is the section that we're going to do is about a half mile longer than the one we did last year. But we're also targeted some maintenance that we want to do during the shutdown of airbags and valves that we would replace during that shutdown. So that'll allow us more time to take care of that maintenance during our shutdowns. And then our building and maintenance, it's just general maintenance, but we also included the resident housing at the lake to make sure that we're managing those as the board recommended. And then our vehicle and equipment replacement, although that went down from last year, we do have one large vehicle, which is a F550 or equal, which has to have a crane on it as well. That unit alone is a little over $120,000. So we are hoping that we see prices decrease. We haven't on vehicles. We've been having a hard time finding vehicles. But that's for that line item. So as we mentioned in the operations maintenance under system coding and painting, we're expecting as we kick off that program, we're going to have to invest in the materials. And then in order for us to be able to spend time doing the coatings and so forth, we're adding to our maintenance landscape contract. So our staff is not out doing weed eating, and we're doing a just as important function, but it would cost us more to have a contractor come in and do the coatings and application versus increasing the weed abatement. On equipment, we added a portable light and generator combo, and that's so that we can work in the evenings and in high traffic when we have something. So right now we just have these portable lights that are battery powered that you would buy like at Home Depot. In some cases they work well, and a lot of cases they do not. But this portable light combo, it's going to run off fuel instead of batteries dying, and then you're running generators towards batteries. And it's, I don't know if you've seen them, but there are a hang roll up light. And it's just going to help us meet a lot of our safety requirements and reduce risk. And then our standby generators are maintained on a 3-year basis. So year 1, they perform a certain amount of tasks, year 2, but we're getting into the year 3, which is more involved. And that's where they're exchanging and flushing the coolant, replacing the starter batteries. They have a turbo, they inspect the turbos. So that'll be a little bit of an increase to make sure that our emergency backup generators are maintained. And then our control systems, we're moving forward with getting a new contractor to test and certify our meters at all of our wells. And that's to comply with the mandates through Fox Canyon. The person that we had retired, so now we're just going off the list and trying to interview the approved testers that are on the GMA website. As we mentioned on the regulatory supplies, for cross connection, you have to have certain testing devices. So we'll be purchasing those testing devices, and we'll have dual devices, some that we can use in the potable water and some that we use on SMP, which you cannot use in the potable water side. And then just as a safety blanket, we're going to look at 6 months of outside services to support us in the compliance with the cross connection mandate. There are not many people out there. We did find one. So we're going to be, we did a field exercise with them just to see what they perform, how they do it. So they're kind of the only game in town right now. So we'd like to capture them before they get too busy, and we can't do that. And then the treatment costs, we're seeing a little bit increase in the testing as we just started right now, and it will increase through the fiscal year to do all of our PFAS analysis and sampling, part of our mandate.
Is that the federal driven list?
It is. It is. There is the DDW adopted values, right? But they are the same.
Thank you.
Lake Bard. So we are looking at security camera upgrades, but also doing an analysis of what type of cameras are they at the right location, making sure we have that information before we go doing a big purchase or expense. And then consulting services, we're looking to do a reservoir management plan, kind of to do the topography, another sediment study, which we haven't done in a long time. And then we would like to have a consultant provide more information on tules and the level of management or mitigation for the tules, so we can get a study on that and come up with an action plan for future budgets. And then on the treatment costs, we want to do a summer run. Normally we do our runs during the winter time. But if we ever had to run our plant, we want to collect the data to find out during the temperatures when, 100 degrees outside, the water's warmer, how the plant reacts, how our chemicals react, and set those baselines. So we'll have the information during winter runs, and we'll have an information during a summer run, and that'll have some additional cost for chemicals just to do that summer. But that'll be hopefully not something we do every year. And then on the well field, we're going to do a well performance analysis, looking at water quality within different levels within the well. But also we do have some wells that are sand producers, and we do have sand separators on there. But we want to step back from the sand separator and find out how and why are we producing sand. And we're going to use a consultant that has a specialty in that area where we don't have that.
How well are the sand separators working?
So it's hard to say, because when you have sand in the pipeline, it's very difficult to remove, right? So when you do have a sand separator that fails, or usually it's one of the baffles in there gives way, and you won't know that, and it's in the system. So how well they're working, that's the problem. And that's why part of this is going to give us that analysis where we can put some IMHOP cones for discharging of the wells and trying to figure out how much sand we're producing, how much sand we're capturing, and then if there's anything on the discharge side as well. Just to even verify that, are these the right sand separators? Are they the right size?
Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Back to finance to wrap it all up.
Yeah, well, there's a few slides here still. So back to this. So at the end of this budget, you'll see that there's some information about the capital improvement program, just kind of giving us a snapshot. You can see that we currently have budgeted projects that have been approved by the board to the tune of $131.9 million. Through April of 2025, we've already spent $64.1 million of that budget. So with that, we're also going to be asking, as part of this adoption of the budget, for the board to approve 3 new fundings, 2 of which we ask for every year. The first one is for the unfunded system repairs of $1.5 million. By having that already budgeted and approved by the board, if something were to happen, we already have some funding in place. It makes it easy for us to transfer the money around because the general manager will move it over. And then we report it on the quarterly capital projects report so you can see what we're doing with it. It's easy to track. It makes it easy for us to be able to real quickly work on an emergency or an outage or something that happens with the pipe or a blow off or anything that happens out in the system, that we can easily get to it and get to it quickly and then report it to the board. The other one is unplanned pump repairs. With some of these pumps out in the well field, these are usually the ones that fail. Sometimes it's a hydro. If it's all of a sudden that needs a major rehab just because something's happened, we budget this money. So if one of those goes down, we can get it repaired quickly as well. We only use it if necessary, and it has to be something major. It's not for general maintenance. The third one is something that we don't do that often. We are actually asking for $100,000 for a project to work on the wash water basin up here at the Bar water filtration plant. O&M has requested that we make some improvements out there, including some handrails and extending the pipe that's out there. And so we're going to have O&M take a look and figure out what we need to do out there and then just budget this project so we can get it done. It's some safety concerns that have come up. So we're kind of trying to deal with that. With all of those that we still have outstanding and with this new money, we'll have an estimated remaining budget that we're still looking to spend of $68.2 million. Of course, that doesn't mean that, engineering is not going to be coming to the board throughout the entire year, asking for money on other projects or, for design and moving it to construction. So every time we do move it from one phase to the next, engineering comes to the board for us to allocate more money. And that will still be happening throughout the year. The last one here too, I want to point out is our debt service coverage. For this year, we're budgeting a debt service coverage to be about 2.46, which is the highest we've ever gotten to based on our budgets. You can see it's been steadily increasing since 23 when we hit the drought and we hit that kind of low period because of the drop in revenues. That really hurt our debt service coverage. That 3.44 was kind of an anomaly year where we had the year before 2 bond issues, we got paid off. And so that kind of shot it up the one year because the next one didn't start for a year. But overall, we're looking really good going into this year at a debt service of 2.46. So that's all I have on the budget. We're going to kind of go over the long range finance plan, just kind of talk about some of the assumptions and go with some of what we're looking for as far as rates in the future. So looking at the assumptions that are included, I just want to point out the metropolitan rate increases that we're looking at coming forward. We have the 9.5% in 2026 that we've already been budgeting for. But in 27, we're looking at a possible 13.9% increase and another 7.5% in 28 before we start getting to some more normal rate increases for metropolitan of 5.1 and 4.4. Now, these rate increases that I'm including in this are really coming mostly from Metropolitan's 10-year finance plan themselves. So I have it out all 10 years. So I'm using their numbers they give us. I did bump up the 2027 number a little bit just to be on the safe side. So we're planning ahead because they have it at like a 12%. But every time we talk with Met, they're always saying that it could be bigger. So I kind of in my finance plan bumped it up a little bit so that we're prepared in case it does come in higher to at least know that what's going to be coming. Other things I assume in here is that we're going to assume a COLA for 3% for salaries going forward. Right now, the CPI is at 3%, so that seems pretty reasonable for us to be doing. Even though we did budget 3.3 in the budget, I just don't know where it's going to be, and I'd rather have that cushion in there going into the budget for this year. We continue to see increases on our pension and medical costs, so I've built in a factor to increase those over time. We are also included in future years some additional staffing as we start needing additional staff as we implement the risk. With that, I mean, just they're down the road, but they are included in the numbers. So when you see some of these rates, know that we are already anticipating additional staff increases in future years for the next 10 years. And I also increase our operating costs by only 2%. I don't actually try to match CPI as much because we never really increase our budgets just based on CPI. We actually look at what we need and the cost that it's going to take to do it. So we don't just bump all of our manually just bump it up. We actually take a look at what's needed. So it's more of a nuanced increase.
But as far as the operations, Dan, you have power charges, you have other charges, they keep going up, right?
Yes, they go up as well.
So, okay.
Yeah, and I that's included with that. So I do utilities as well.
Okay.
And it's typically around 2%. It hasn't been actually that much lately, but this next couple of years, I think it's going to be going up a little bit more. But we're anticipating some of that. And I do build it in.
It seems like there's so much noise around all the different things that O&M has to get.
Yes.
I mean, how would you decipher? Yeah, that's.
You know, you take your best shot on some of this, you know, and some of it's, like I said, I'm doing like a 2% increase on most of the O&M stuff. And then we just see what happens with the budget and we work it that way. You know, the long range finance plan, you're trying to do the best you can. If we know something's coming, we can build it into the long range finance plan, but most of it, we don't know until like the year we're getting into it. Here's our chart with the 5 years going forward of rates. So you can see the 2026 rate, we're looking at an 8.6%. Overall tier one, we're only talking tier one water. 2027, we're looking at about 11.6 and 2028, 7.5, and then it gets down to the fives. And it continues with the fives going forward. You can see from Calleguas, we're looking at the 5.6 is the highest we do. It goes down to 4.4 and it stays pretty much about 4.5 after that. So the big question mark is going to be the MET rate because that's the big factor with it being 75% of our tiered one rate. What their percentages really impact what we have to end up charging for our tier one. And yes, I do share these with the purveyors as well. So at the purveyor meeting, I present a lot of the same information along with that future 5-year projection. And so all of them ask for that slide because they build that into their long range finance plans as well. So kind of just go over, I know there's a lot of numbers on this and I'm just going to highlight some numbers, but this is my analysis of what we're looking at. The green is focusing on the operating side of this. The one thing I want to point out is that in 2026, we're finally budgeting a positive number for adding money to reserves. We've gone 3 years of using reserves. And so we may not use reserves this year because we've got some savings in the expenditures, but we've had it budgeted. It's going to be a negative. So we were going to have to use reserves. And this year, 2026, we're not looking at doing that. Some of the other numbers to look at. So right now, our unreserved is to be around $6.6 million, which is really kind of low for an unreserved for us. We used to be in the $20 million range, but since the drought and having to use reserves, we're down to 6.6. So that's one of the things with that, when Director Pacala was pointing out that our revenues are higher than our expenditures by percentages, it's helping us build back up some of those reserves so that when we do get to the next drought, we are again prepared if we have to use reserves to make the increases smoother over time, we can do that. I'm shooting in 5 years, we're going to be closer to $11 million based on the 5-year projections that I've put in and the rate increases that we're proposing mostly for Calleguas. So we're not increasing super fast, but it is continuing to increase until we probably get to the $12 to $15 million range is kind of what I'm shooting for as far as a reserve, unreserved in the operating fund. Based on the projections for the capital improvement program, based on what we saw from Fernando on Monday with his projections, I am looking to have to use the $20 million that we've borrowed or have our line of credit. We haven't actually borrowed it yet. Is out there and I'm going to use that up. And based on this, we could be looking at a bond issue in 2027. So additional $30 million. So we have a pretty aggressive CIP program going on. And if we do spend like this, we could be looking at another bond issue in 2030. I didn't put that on here because that's pretty far out. But based on the cash that's sitting there, I would say that we're probably looking at that as well.
Dan, is our debt service bond covenants 2.5?
1.25,
1.25?
yes. So we're well above that.
Yeah, I was going to point that out. We're way above.
Yeah, we're way above that. So that's looking at the debt service coverage for the next 5 years. And you can see we budgeted the 2.46. And it gets up a little bit next year, but then it's going to drop back down as we issue the debt. It drops our debt service coverage, but we're remaining it above 2, which is really another one of the goals, is to keep that debt service coverage above 2, because it helps us be very strong in the market and gives us access to really good interest rates out there and helps maintain our good, really good credit rating.
Good.
So that's all I have. Now we're just looking at the next steps. So at the next board meeting on June 18th, we're going to come back to the board. First thing we're going to do is have you consider adoption of the rates. So we have you do that first, because this way, if there's anything that comes up, we can roll that into the consideration of the adoption of the budget. And then we're all finished.
Well, I have a few comments about the rates. Well, as we all know, Metropolitan increases rates. We follow them. And we take their rates, we add our rates, we go to the purveyors and they do the same thing. When Metropolitan does high increases, how can we help soften that on our purveyors? Can we look that in next year, during the next year? Could it be through other options we have, or could we look additional rate stabilization fund?
We can definitely take a look at the rate stabilization fund, and we can build that maybe into the cost of service study. And that's, part of that reserve, refining our reserve policy. It's all gonna kind of go into that. Time for us to be taking a look at it, because we're setting ourselves with the finance portion of the budget to actually do some of that work.
Yeah, that sounds good. My concern is, we provide some information to the purveyors, eventually the ratepayers. Suddenly they change over a period of time. I'm talking about not us. So that creates problems to the purveyors and the stakeholders. They don't trust what we are telling them. Those are the issues that come to my mind when you look at that. The reason I'm asking about questions about softening is that may help in a long way to build confidence in what the numbers we are giving them. If we take some from soften our rates.
Yeah, it doesn't really, I guess you would say soften it, but it's really just going to extend it out for when the increases come, because you still have to collect all of those increases over time.
Yes, you have to. Yes, I understand.
But when you soften it, it just grows over time.
It goes over time, but once purveyors and the customers know, this is what I'm expecting next 5 years. If you stick within that's what I thought may help us.
You're talking about smoothing the rates essentially, and that is something we have done some of historically.
These 9-10% increases, those are really hard. That's 75% of our budget. Those are large dollar amounts.
Yeah.
That are gonna hit us, that we have to then make sure we fund at some point.
Yeah. Well, if you're saying 9-10%, you're looking at the differential increase, right? If our rates are 6%, for example, you're talking about additional 3% for maybe a year or two.
Oh, yes. Right, but 3% on metropolitans, I mean, it's a big chunk. It's a big chunk of money.
Okay. Well, we can talk about it next fiscal meeting or other committee meetings, and even the study that you're referring to.
Yeah. And that's gonna be the place to really try to put it in there, is
right. Okay.
With the cost of service study, so we can build it into the rates.
Yeah.
With the next study, and add it into the reserve policies.
Okay. Thank you. Well, as I said before, I was out of order, I guess, but
You were ahead of the game.
I already made my comments. I mean, financial report's great, and Calleguas is doing a very good job of keeping up the rates and keeping good reserves, which we need to provide reliable water supply to our customers and during emergencies. Thank you. Okay. Where are-
We have one more Dan item that we promise is much briefer than this,
Okay.
the budget discussion.
Good then.
It's the April 2025 financial report.
April 2025 financial report. So let me just start with the water sales. So we are looking good with water sales for this year. Through April, we've sold 62,218. I mean, we said that with the water usage sales too, but so we are definitely, almost 3,000 acre feet above what we had budgeted. So we're on pace for the 76,500. That has resulted in additional water revenues, net of the cost. So we are ahead so we're getting additional revenues. It's about $800,000 from the water revenue side. When we look at the admin expenses, we are looking at quite a bit of savings there too. So far, we budgeted to be at this point of the year at 23.7, and so far we've only spent $21 million. There are several reasons for this. It's not all the consultants that have paid, but we have stuff out there that is also encumbered, which means we have purchase orders out for many items on outside services, on treatment costs, on some of the software. And that's almost $1 million. So I think it's $860,000. So kind of let you know that there are other costs that we're expecting to come in probably before the end of the year. And if it doesn't come in before the end of the year, we'll carry it forward into the new budget. So this is actual expenses, but there are other things out there that will bring that number closer over time. When we're looking at taxes and revenues, this is a good thing for us. This is one of the reasons we're increasing our budget next year for property taxes and for the interest revenues, because we are exceeding budget from this year.
Does the property tax revenue go up as the economy improves?
Yes, as property values go up, we get a chunk of that 1% that you pay on your property tax bill. So it's not a very big chunk, but it's a chunk still, and it comes to the tune of, $13 million. So that's a good chunk for us. So we're $3.2 million ahead of budget from taxes and interest. So we're looking good on that. Which is why our operating income that we're looking at, which is the bottom graph there, we're almost $6 million ahead of where we thought we would be, because we've got savings, we've got additional water revenues, and we've got that extra revenue at this point from taxes and interest. The other place that we're also seeing some savings is the principal and interest. Since we refinanced those 2010 bonds, we are paying a lot less interest. And so it is generating some savings, which is why when we're looking at next year, we're able to budget less for the interest. And it's having a very good effect on our debt service coverage. Just looking at the month of April, you can see that we actually came out, it was a pretty even month for April when we're looking at the water sales, because we almost hit budget. So overall, it came out pretty close. We were right on budget with the operating admin expenses as well. The place that we made up again was property taxes and insurance and interest. We exceeded what we thought we'd get in, so we are ahead of the game there. So at the end of the day, for the month of April, we did actually end up with a positive operating income, which is a good thing.
Dan, is this anomaly, or do you see this increase month by month as you provide monthly reports, correct?
We do this monthly. So it depends when you're talking about. I mean, there are some months where we spend more on our admin. It depends on the water sales.
Okay.
So, for May, I think we're looking at, we're almost at budget again. So there's probably not going to be that much of an increase on the water sales side. I don't know how we've done on the admin expenses. Taxes, insurance, we still got more out there. We could get some in May. So it just depends on the month. But we track it on a monthly basis just to kind of show you how we did that month. I do allocate the budget on some items if I know that we get all of our property taxes in 2 months, basically, most of it. December and April.
Right.
So we budget that way. So we know we can kind of track how we're doing. We do that with a lot of other, like water sales. We track it on a month by month. We kind of allocate it out. Cash and investments for the month of April, you'll see that we had a big increase. We increased almost $4 million, and that was because of property taxes. That's a lump sum that comes in, and so that just shoots our cash up so we can start putting some cash into the investments. Just to kind of look at the ratios, most of these, all of these on this page really didn't change from month to month. It stays very strong, anything over a 1 is good for the current ratio, and we're at 9.74. So we've got plenty of assets to cover all of our liabilities. We're in really good shape. Same thing with the quick ratio and the debt ratio. Those are all really good ratios that we're at. So we're well above the industry standard. You can see that we had a big jump in both of these, which is a good thing. We're now looking at 2.73 on our debt service coverage through April. We budgeted 2.5. We're probably going to end up higher than our 2.05 because we're going to have some savings and additional revenues. So we're looking good on both these two ratios. That is all I have. I am done, unless there's questions.
Thank you. Any comments?
Thank you very much. And what a lot of work on that budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan, and all of finance staff and all the managers and their staffs. What you saw today was a culmination of a lengthy effort with a lot of participation from all of the people in this room and many, many others. So I'm glad the board is
Thank you.
satisfied by the level of information presented.
Thank you. Very good job, sir. Moving on to item 8C.
B, gotta do general counsel.
B,
report.
just glance over it.
General counsel report.
See, I knew that.
No closed session tonight either.
Okay, now we go to item 8C, Board of Directors reports.
Starting with the committee reports. So we had 2 committee meetings. We had the Engineering and Construction Committee meeting on Monday, which I believe you will report on in Director Roberts' absence. And the Organization and Operations Committee meeting met yesterday, and Director Grady will present on that as chair.
Yes. As I previously mentioned, we had our engineering and construction meeting at the site for Las Virgenes and Calleguas Municipal Water District Interconnection Project site. It was an impressive site, and it was built to last for generations. And there was a lot of coordination that was done between operations, IT, engineering, 2 districts, if we include Transfor, 3 different districts. They have given us a tour and how the system operates. They even have a screen there. They could see everything from there, how the things are working out with the control at this, I guess, main control center. We also have gone through all the consultant contracts and engineering 5-year capital construction plan. As I said before, most of the questions were answered by engineering staff. Thank you. Next is operations.
Just want to comment on the previous one, that this was the award-winning Clare Hill.
Oh, award-winning.
Her connection.
Yeah.
Thank you for noting that.
Okay, so Operations and Organization Committee meeting occurred on the 3rd, and so the items were the proposed position on the GIS analyst by Wes. Great presentation. You got some of that. And then you also got some from Omar Castro on the proposed new and reclassified positions in O&M. And then we also had a boat tour with the invasive mussel species.
With the absence of invasive mussel species, just clear. There were no quaggas on board.
That's right. We did not see invasive mussel species. And so, and I always wanted to see that that budget item that appears infrequently is the script cost that shows up, and it's finally nice to see the real field on that one. So I think that's it. No other new items.
I would just, if I could clarify that the committee did concur with staff's recommendation to add the GIS analyst position and to make the reclassifications proposed by O&M. So.
Oh, yeah, they They said that,
Enthusiastically.
Unanimously.
yeah.
Yeah, since I was not allowed to speak there, so I completely support the proposed reclassifications.
Thank you. That's it for committees, 2 in 2 days. We were busy.
Yes. Okay, thank you. So, moving on to item 8C2, board members. First one, report on ACWA Regional 8 Director. Item 8C2A.
Aqua Region 8, Scott.
Aqua Region.
Okay, you want me to, okay, yeah,
That was you.
the only thing I have to say on that is that I'm attending the executive board meeting, on Friday in Sacramento.
Nothing. One.
Nothing to report on the JPIA this time.
Nothing to report on, okay. Item C, okay. AWA. Dr. Avila is not, Director Avila is not here, so we'll skip that. Next one is item D, Fox County Groundwater Management Agency. I did remotely attend May 23rd GMA board meeting, which started at 8 a.m. in Ventura. And it was mainly about interviews for new executive officer for GMA. It's my understanding that there was only one candidate who were interviewed by the panel, where our deputy director participated in the interview panel. And then that particular day, the board, GMA board was interviewing that candidate. They have not made any announcement as of now, that I know. Next item, Jackie, Metropolitan Water District, please.
On May 23rd, we had a preparation call for some upcoming Sacramento legislative visits. And on the 26th and 27th, I attended MWD's committee and special meetings. On May 28th, we did have our Sacramento legislative visits, and included in those visits were the offices of Senators Henry Stern, Monique Lamont, and Assembly members Jackie Urin and Steve Bennett. And then on May 30th, we had a Sacramento legislative visits debriefing. And then on June 2nd and 3rd, we had a special organization personnel and effectiveness committee to select a firm to recruit the new GM. And that's it.
Thank you very much for providing that list to all of the directors. And we appreciate all the hard work you do.
Thank you.
I don't know how you do it, but you did a good job.
I leave all the rest to you guys, that's why.
Okay, LAFCO.
So there, obviously, this is Director Avila's role. He reported on the May 21st meeting at the board meeting we had that night. It does look like LAFCO's canceled their June meeting, so there would be nothing to report.
Okay. And Ventura County Regional Energy Alliance, that's me. We did not have any meetings to date. However, there's a meeting coming up on June 23rd at 9 a.m. at county office. I'll be attending that meeting. Ventura County Special Districts Representative Association.
Director Roberts, the representative, but I do know that there, and he's obviously not here tonight, there was a meeting last night at the Port of Hueneme. There weren't any Calleguas folks in attendance, except that they needed one more district represented to get quorum for some bylaws changes. So Jim Friedel from Conejo Recreation and Park District called me and asked me to participate remotely for the votes. There were 2 things we voted on, and these are changes that have been discussed now for several meetings, but they didn't want to have to defer action once again. And they were changes in the bylaws to reduce their number of meetings annually to 5 from 6, as well as change their due structure to simplify it, so that instead of paying for each attendee at every meeting, we would have to decide which kind of plan to sign on to that would assume a certain number of attendees consistently for all meetings. And as long as you kind of averaged that, that would be acceptable. So both those changes were approved. There'll be more information forthcoming on the levels of membership. I would also note that the meeting in September, and I'll look up that date while I'm talking here, evening of September 2nd will be here at the district. The president, Millie Cusworth of Conejo Recreation and Parks asked if we would be willing to serve as hosts of the meeting. They are, however, responsible for finding the speaker, and I do not yet know who that will be.
Thank you. So next is administrative code reimbursement meetings, item 3. Who wants to go first?
Oh, I will. We only have 2. May 30th, I did the cyber security training on deep fake, and on June 4th, tonight's board meeting.
Okay.
See, on May 22nd, I attended the Waterwise here at Calleguas. Yeah. DWR GM kick us off.
New GM, pretend to be a game show host.
6/2 is my turn to be mute on the engineering and construction committee meeting. And on 6/3, of course, the O&O committee meeting and tonight's board meeting.
Okay. Thank you. On myself, just today's Calleguas board meeting. Under item 8C3. Next item is upcoming meetings, 8C-4.
If I could just highlight a couple of things, as you can see, that is a we have a busy summer ahead of us. Some of the more noteworthy activities are on Wednesday, July 9th at 10 a.m. We'll have a joint tour of the LV interconnection with Las Virgenes board. The Southern California Water Coalition quarterly meeting will be held at the Reagan Library on Friday, July 18th at noon. You can RSVP to Kara on that one. And then the Calleguas Las Virgenes Interconnection Community Celebration event is scheduled for Thursday on July 24th. And I believe we now have a time for that of 4:30 to 6:30. So we're working feverishly on the planning for that, and it's coming together really nicely. So some special events to look forward to this summer. Some of which will likely have ice cream, just in case you were on the fence.
So board members for upcoming meetings.
I had previously just mentioned that I would be attending the executive committee meeting up in Sacramento Friday.
Okay. Jackie, any future meetings to report? Myself, I have several to report. June 17th, I'm going to be attending a water resiliency presentation by our GM and Deputy General Manager at Leisure Village. On Calleguas board meeting on June 18th. June 19th, AWA Waterwise. June 20th, ASR Wellfield Wellfield tour, again with General Manager and Deputy General Manager. The last time I have been to that site was 15 years ago when they have already completed and then we started operating. That's the last time I have.
The main thing that has changed is that we have 10 megawatts in diesel backup generation.
Yeah, it'll be interesting for me to go back and see how things look there. June 12th, I will be attending my first Waterworks District number 1 advisory committee meeting in Moore Park. County Board of Supervisors have appointed me to be on that committee. June 23rd, I'll be attending BCRA board meeting in Ventura. June 25th, our board meeting. Sorry, June 26th is the Calleguas board meeting.
I think you might be referring to the purveyor meeting because our next board meeting,
Calleguas purveyors meeting.
we have the meeting on, our next board meeting is the 18th. And just so everyone's clear on the meeting on the 26th, that is not here like it usually is. It will be at Camrosa's treatment facility at Hill Canyon and Santa Rosa Road, followed by a lunch at Hill Canyon wastewater treatment plant in their conference room, not in the plant.
Okay. So that concludes item 8. Number 9, request for future agenda items. Well, I don't have any. Don't. Okay. Moving on to item 10, board comments. Thank you for adding this. I was the one who suggested maybe it will be good for us to add this on so that way we can talk about issues that we are not allowed to talk in other places. Thank you. Item 11, informational items.
So we have two items in the packet this time around. One is the press release that we jubilantly sent out after the Claire Hill Award was awarded to our award-winning project. The last version is Calleguas Interconnection. We did receive some press attention. There was an article in the Acorn that was distributed with the news clips the board received earlier this week. And there was a story on Spectrum One News, which we are still trying to get our hands on. But we know it included footage of some of our board members and some of our staff. And we will share that with the board as soon as we have it available. The other item is a coalition or NASCAR letter for the Delta Conveyance Project budget trailer bill. As I believe the board knows, the governor has proposed a trailer bill that kind of removes some of the obstructions and red tape around proceeding with Delta Conveyance. So we have been very actively engaged in Charlotte in particular, as know how Director McMillan has as well with her Met hat on, in making sure that our elected officials in Sacramento understand how critical this project and the state water project are to the vibrancy and vitality of our communities. So I expect to see more correspondence in future packets on this, but this is quite frankly the largest coalition letter I have ever seen in my career. So it was a pretty impressive range of water, labor, business, et cetera, ag that signed on to that letter. It was a very, very powerfully logoed coalition letter.
At our last purveyors meeting, we had interest from other purveyors, especially United and other districts. Do we know if they sent in their letters?
We know that a number of local organizations as well as our purveyors, the only purveyor letter we've seen so far was Thousand Oaks,
Okay.
which we didn't get in time to include in the packet, but it was excellent. We know there are a number of others underway, not just by the retailers and other water agencies, but also by chambers of commerce and other similar industry organizations. So do expect to see more on this.
And I really hope to see him because I heard from both Senator Stern and from Assemblyman Bennett that more is needed because our voice is getting suppressed. And Don assured him we are shopping that letter around and we're trying to get to everyone we can. So
yeah, we definitely know it's very much in the works, and I've seen the only one I've seen so far though is Thousand Oaks.
Well, that concludes our board meeting agendas. Then we are ready to adjourn into closed session.
Nope, there's no closed session.
Oh, it says closed session.
Yeah, it's always on there just so we don't lose.
Went up if you guys are.
No closed
Okay.
session this evening.
So,
I did get approved for state water project and that'll be November 7, 8, and 9. So that's state water project. So if you're interested.
Yeah, if I could suggest we talk at the next board meeting about which other board member will accompany you. I didn't want to do it tonight, since we're missing two directors.
Yes, that's fine.
Excellent.
okay. Any other comments? Hearing none. Meeting adjourned.